Okay, so we'll be moving on to Grant Gonzalez, and even though they have the same last name, no relation to Crystal, who went just a minute ago. And Grant is from Red Rocks Community College, pursuing Associates of Science in Chemistry, while also training in pre-professional division at the Colorado Ballet Academy. And he would like to transfer to a four-year university in choreographic composition and biochemistry. So he has an interesting presentation here for us, combining science and art.
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction, Alicia. So I just want to start off by thanking my field team so much for all their assistance, and then for all the individuals that helped with the side-by-side program. Just inspired me every single day and helped me create all this, and also the RECCS team for constantly just allowing me to do these crazy, outlandish ideas. So before we go to the next slide, I would like everyone to close their eyes. Close their eyes. We're going to get into this world. We're going to imagine that we're in a circular room, and it's slowly getting smaller and smaller until our knees are held up to our chest and our head is tucked above our knees. And from here, we hear a cracking noise, and the cracking gets louder and louder, and then we emerge from this egg. And you can go to the next slide. So we have just hatched. It is day 0. We are day 0 nestlings, and we are ball-shaped, and we are still wet. Okay, next slide. Now it is day 1. And we are dry and developing our head strength. So we are going to grow into our nestlings as we grow through this presentation. So my project just began with a really just fascinating world that Rebecca J. Safran, the leader of the lab that I was working with, pushed me into. It's a side-by-side program that combines artistic expression with science and encourages young women and gender non-conforming individuals into STEM fields by helping them conduct research and translate it into art pieces. So my goal was to create more empathy for the natural world by analyzing the relationship between barn swallows and humans. Go to the next slide. So now we are day 2 nestlings, and we are feeling feather pinning appear on, for lack of a better term, our butts, where our tail streamers would be. So little feather pinning, prickling here and there. So after I was first immersed in that process with Becca, I had to create a plan for the summer because there were a lot of different ideas that I wanted to enact in a really short amount of time. This plan wasn't necessarily followed by any means, but it was just really important as part of the creative process. Next slide. So now we are day 3 nestlings, and we're getting a better understanding of our limbs and our legs, and we're starting to feel how this space works for ourselves and like understanding what we can do with our newfound bodies. So from there, I developed a methodology for both of I had 2 parts of my project, so artistic portion and a scientific research portion. The artistic portion was developing a portfolio that described goals, ambitions, ideas, and reflecting on the creative process that I went through when I was working with the side-by-side program. And we'll see a few examples of that in slides to come. And then my scientific research process kind of developed with my mentors as they helped me through designing an ethogram and then creating behavior schemes, analyzing behavior, and creating an artistic piece from there. Next slide. So now we are day 4 nestlings, and our feather pinning is spreading from our butts to our chest, and we're feeling it prickle all over ourselves and feeling those feathers starting to come in. So with the side-by-side program, these individuals each explored a specific bird species on their own. And what I did is, because I have a mastery of movement from my years of training with dance, I decided that I would help them best embody the bird species that they had chosen. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is just a sample of my creative process going through the day. I would lay out goals. I created movement workshops where we isolated our heads, our shoulders, our backs, our knees, our hips. And I did individual research projects where I would watch YouTube videos of the birds that these individuals had chosen, pull out different characteristics that helped characterize the birds, and then help them best embody them in their facilities. And we can go to the next slide. So these are some examples of the movement videos that I did with the side-by-side members, and we will just go through them. So this first one is a violet-green swallow, and they're similar to all kinds of swallows, and they fly in very like circular motions, like they swoop, dip, and dive, and it's just really gorgeous to watch. We tried to encompass that with Gwen through this movement process. This next one is a goldfinch. Eliza was the goldfinch, and they had this really amazing like attacking motion when they're going to try and pick food from different plants. We really wanted to encompass like how they examine it from all these different angles. So she was really enthusiastic, and it was just gorgeous what she was able to do with that space and that time. And then we have Lola, who's a toki. They're pretty stuck on the ground. They like kind of hop around. So we tried to just imitate like the ruffling that these animals do because it's just super, super gorgeous. Okay, and we can go to the next slide. Okay, and now we are day 5 nestlings. So we're starting to like pop our heads out of our nests. When our parents come in, like we're eager for food. We see them coming, we want food. And we're just like, we're discovering this space in our bodies as well. So after I did all the movement workshops with the side-by-side members, we did filming. They created art hikes where these individuals described their connections to their birds and they created choreographic movement with it. During all those days, I was on set, coaching them through their choreography, helping them with everything that they were doing for the filming. And it was just a really beautiful, amazing creative process. What you're seeing again is my like journaling and cataloging of this process throughout the day. Again, it was intentions, reflections, and ideas for what was coming next and how I felt about the process as a whole. You can go to the next slide. And then we can just play the video on the right. This was part of one of the final videos that I was lucky enough to be in. The director of the program asked me to be in the videos, which I wasn't expecting. Sciences are no longer separated into a binary, but are rather connected to show us a holistic understanding of the natural world. So what we did is like each individual wrote a little piece about how they connected with their birds, and then they discussed how this experience changed the outlook on the world. And it just really revolutionized how I saw the arts and sciences existing together. And we can go to the next slide. So now we are day 6 nestlings and the feather pinning is spreading all over our bodies. We're feeling it come in, our tail streamer feather pinning is getting longer. It's all over, we're feeling it. We're starting to become these adult swallows that are really elegant and gorgeous. And I just wanted to include some testimonials of my work with the side-by-side program. A common theme seen within the testimonials from all these individuals is that I was able to create a very nice, comfortable space with them. But I like to emphasize that we all have different facilities, we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And we can learn to embrace what we have to offer in this space. We can just create really beautiful things. We can go to the next slide.
Yeah, 7 minutes.
Okay, so we are day 7 swallows and our feathers are starting to form on our chest and we're starting to feel like this, like just our feathers coming in and feeling this elegance start to emerge. So I started a scientific research project on my own with the Safran lab. I did ad libitum sampling of bird behavior. So I just did freeform writing, like I would when I watched the nest, and it was freeform writing of what I was seeing, everything that intrigued me or I thought that it was exciting. And then I translated that into an ethogram that defined bird behavior. And we can go to the next slide. So now we are day 8 swallows and we're starting to communicate with our parents. We're starting to talk to them. We're starting to tell them we want food. We're telling them what we need, just developing that like baseline communication. So I developed an ethogram of swallow behavior, which just defines specific behavior. I chose when females are sitting at nests. A lot of us have this idea that when birds sit on eggs, they just sit there and kind of plop and don't really do anything, but they have this whole life and they exist and they take up space and they still are living like their own truth while they're taking care of their babies. So this was just a chart that described everything that I was seeing when I was observing the swallows. My favorite one from this chart is ruffling, where like the birds like kind of like ruffle up their feathers and like when they're preening and moving in between different things. And I think it's just really, really cute, but it's also like very elegant. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, now we are day 9 swallows and we are beginning to rest our heads on the side of the nest, looking out, seeing when our parents are coming back, just examining the world around ourselves. So after creating the ethogram, I created a coding scheme in this app called Animal Behavior Pro that allowed me to take focal samples of the birds over specified periods of 30 minutes. And from there, I worked with my mentor, Sage, to help analyze ratios of how long these behaviors occurred in relation to the total focal sampling. And then I averaged that out. And we can move to the next slide. And then, okay, so now we're day 10 nestlings and we're starting to like preen, we're starting to take care of ourselves, just develop behaviors that result in us becoming adult swallows. So I translated the ethogram from swallow movement to human movement, like on a facility for a dancer, and just how I would translate that into trying to create a choreographic piece. It's kind of awkward sounding when you read it, but it definitely is like this space where they can understand exactly what the swallow movement could look like on a human facility. You can go to the next slide. Now we are day 11 swallows. We're starting to lose weight. Usually baby swallows gain a lot of weight and then they have to lose weight so they can fledge from the nest and fly away. So after that, I was inspired by non-Western forms of theater and I used the focal sampling that I had done to roughly estimate like how long these behaviors would occur in 1 minute, 2 minute, and 3 minute long pieces. And from there, I created this rule list that defined like how behaviors are related to one another and how they occur in a sequential order, priority and non-priority behaviors, to give an artist space to play if I was creating a choreographic piece with this translated behavior. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so then just the reflection, I was trying to like find time to actually record this choreographic piece with one of my friends, but I just overscheduled myself and I tried to fit too many things into one summer. That being said, so grateful for what I created, so grateful to find my space in this artistic field. And I was moving forward in the future, I'd want to create that piece and then show it to other individuals to try and again, see how there's similarities between the species that we may not always identify with, to create empathy for them and for other animals in the natural world. And now on day 12 usually is when like swallows will fledge from the nest. So we are close to full size, we have lost weight we need, and we are ready to soar. We can go to the next slide. And now it's time to fledge. So we have come to the end and we have left the nest. And
Right,
that is all.
excellent. That was some great imagery and a wonderful story. In the interest of time, we're going to move on to our next speaker. But if people have questions for Grant, please put them in the chat. If you are watching on Facebook Live, you can put comments on Facebook and we will pass them on to Grant, ask him to answer, and then we'll post his responses on Facebook.